Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to a special Thursday night edition of the No DQ AEW Dynamite recap. It is August 27th, 2020. We have AEW All Out coming out in about a week and a half, maybe a little bit less than that. Tonight's show was noteworthy because it was the first time since March 11th that we've had paying fans in attendance at Dynamite. Did it make a difference with the show? Let's go ahead and discuss it. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership. We kicked off with the gauntlet match, but before that got started, Chris Jericho came out to do commentary for this show. The announcers talked about the fans being there. About 500 fans were in attendance, and Jim Ross noted that many of them were wearing masks, social distancing, all that stuff. Before the show, we had Tony Khan come out there to address the fans, and he asked them to keep the masks on and stay socially distant. It looked like people were, although I did see some fans that did not have the masks on properly. Hopefully that will be worked on and people will be able to figure out how to properly wear a mask. Maybe they didn't want to wear it properly, who knows. But when Jericho came out, the fans were singing Judas. He was very happy to have a little bit of normalcy again with the fans reacting to him. He did seem to have that extra spark. But anyways, we had this gauntlet match with the tag teams to determine which team will go on to All Out to face Kenny Omega and Adam Page. It was the Young Bucks up against the Natural Nightmares, Dustin and QT Marshall. Dustin hit his Canadian Destroyer, but then he started to get beat down for a while. He tagged into QT. QT got a near fall, but in the end, he fell to the Bucks. They hit the double BTE trigger, as they call it, to pick up the victory. And then the Best Friends came out as the next opponents for the Bucks. And the Bucks pretty much made almost short work of them, but then just as they were on the verge of victory, they were going for the Dave Meltzer driver when all of a sudden Hangman Page showed up and grabbed Nick's foot, and Matt ended up getting pinned, which means the Bucks will not be able to compete for the titles. They're out of the gauntlet. Page seemed very upset about this, what he did, and he walked off. Jericho had a funny line here. He's like, never trust a guy in a cowboy hat, which of course could be a reference to good old JR, Jim Ross. We had FTR come out as the last team with Tully Blanchard by their side. They had their fancy jackets, and Jericho had another funny line about the tag ropes, talking about how he likes tag ropes because you could choke people with them. Chuck Taylor's leg gave out on him, and that led to Harwood picking up the victory with a submission. The one thing I did not like about this was that the finish was very out of nowhere, and the announcers were not even paying attention to it, really. They were talking about MJF, I think, and the finish just totally caught them off guard. So the finish came off very anticlimactic when the announcers did not even pick up on what was going on, and they're like, oh, wait, the match is over. So officially, it's going to be FTR versus Omega and Page at the pay-per-view. Match was fine, but like I said, could have ended on a more climatic note. We had Lance Archer come out for a match He had Jake the Snake Roberts there by his side. Archer did his usual routine where he beat up one of the guys at ringside. Jericho referred to them as trainees and low-level AEW performers at ringside. Archer beat the crap out of this guy, choke-slammed him, pulled him up when he had the match won, hit the blackout, and then smashed the guy's head in a few times for good measure before finally pinning the poor sap. And then after the match, Jake Roberts cut a promo, talked about 21 men. Reminded me of that infamous Heroes of Wrestling promo. You got 21, I got 22. I wonder if anybody even remembers that far back. Hopefully you don't, because that was a painful memory. Jake talked about how there was one little blemish on Archer's record, and now they're going to fix that at All Out in this 21-man Casino Royale Battle Royal. I thought they were only doing those at the Double or Nothing pay-per-views. I guess they're going to do it again. We got another 21-man Battle Royal coming up at the pay-per-view, and Archer vowed to throw 20 men out, eliminate all of them. He said everybody's going to die at the pay-per-view. And then we had Team Taz come out, and Jake referred to them as the Flintstones. And Taz said that Archer will not be victorious at the pay-per-view. It will be a member of Team Taz. Jericho said they look like a bunch of chickens in suits, and he said that Archer's going to pluck them all at the pay-per-view. Darby Allin then showed up with his skateboard. He came down the ramp, ran into the ring, attacked Starks, and then we had a face-off between Archer and Cage. The crowd was chanting, "Let them fight." And yes, Dr. NXT Scorpio, the winner gets a title match at some point, which I thought was the whole thing that they did with Brian Cage back at Double or Nothing, but looks like they're doing it again. So there you go. We had MJF wearing a neck brace, and he was using a walker, struggling to go down the hallway to get to the ring. We had a Thunder Rosa video package. We saw her cut a promo last week. She is the NWA Women's Champion, and she will be facing Hikaru Shida at the pay-per-view. Pretty cool video package here. We got some footage from the NWA, so nice little publicity for Billy Corgan and the NWA. Corgan even did a little voiceover talking about the match. And there was a contract signing. So we got 2-on-1 show, but this was just a little short part of the video package. We had the contract signed, and then Rosa tried to grab the title, but Shida grabbed it before her. Nice little segment here. I liked how they kept it simple, and, you know, I think this is one of the bigger women's matches in AEW up to this point. And they had to bring in an outsider to make it seem like a big deal. But hey, whatever works. NWA, they're not doing TV shows right now, and this is a chance for AEW and NWA to work out something together. Don't see an issue with it. I'm actually looking forward to this one, more than most AEW women's title matches. We had MJF and Jon Moxley have their contract signing segment. For those of you that are new to the live streams, I'm not a fan of contract signing segments. AEW is starting to do them a lot. I was okay with one, but now we're getting 2 in one show. A little much for me. Moxley walked out through the middle part of the venue, and Jericho was marking out at the women that were cheering him. Jericho said chicks love Moxley. He hates him, but he's still happy that fans are back. Jericho never mentioned that the fans were unbanned from AEW. I thought that was a whole little storyline there, but Jericho's happy. The people are back. Still hates Moxley, though. They did announce that Moxley was ranked number 1 in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500, their yearly list of the top 500 wrestlers in the world. Moxley made the list. The voting period, or whatever period they determine it, is from June 2019 through June 2020. So basically, second half of 2019 and first half of 2020. And Moxley, as far as they're concerned, number 1 guy. So there you go. We had the lawyer there, and they mentioned that in the contract it says the paradigm shift is banned. MJF quickly signed the contract, and Jim Ross was just disgusted by this. He said, what are they going to ban next, a headlock? DJW with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much for that, DJ. He says, I feel like based on the build that MJF will get his ass beat most of this match, then MJF will get that one lucky shot in to throw Mox off enough to get a shocking win. It would make sense since Mox's wife is home now. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about the stipulation here in a few seconds. Thanks again, DJ, for that super chat. I really do appreciate it. MJF said we've seen 1 million contract signings, and it almost ends with physicality. Crowd was chanting for Moxley, and MJF said he's not going to hurt Moxley. He wants Moxley to practice social distancing just like his hairline. Nice little line here, and Moxley had a comeback of his own. He said, don't worry, dude. You'll get there one day. You'll just have to hit puberty first. MJF said he never understood the hype of Moxley. He said Moxley is a one-trick pony. He said that Moxley has worshipped garbage wrestlers, guys like the Sandman and New Jack. They're hot garbage, while he has worshipped guys like Buddy Rogers and Ernie Ladd and Tully Blanchard. And then he took a little shot at Moxley's wife, saying that, hey, after this is all done, maybe you can tell your hot little wife that he's single, MJF. Moxley got pissed off, and the lawyer said if Moxley does anything, there's going to be a lawsuit. Moxley told the lawyer to sit down, dickwad, and Moxley said that MJF is forcing him to be creative because now he has to think of all these creative ways that he can hurt MJF. And then Moxley said his public defender is in jail, so he's just going to go ahead and sign the contract. He said MJF is a dead man. Moxley signed. Team MJF was happy. They were celebrating that they got one over on Moxley, but then Moxley noted that they missed a page. There was a page 17, and everybody freaked out on MJF's side. They found the page 17, and what it said was next week it will be Moxley one-on-one with the lawyer. Moxley versus MJF's lawyer, and the paradigm shift will be legal. Entertaining segment here, but I think it went on too long. I think that it could have been several minutes shorter. I think it dragged out a bit. And this is coming from somebody who likes the talking segments. I did think this went on a bit too long, and maybe they could have cut it down a bit and gotten to the point faster, but it was still entertaining. I still enjoyed it. I just think that sometimes one of the downsides to not having a script is that you go on. And that was one of the issues with this show that I noticed. I felt like by the end of the show, and we'll get to it, like they had run out of time. Like I feel like some segments ran too long, and the main event was really short, and they had to rush through all the spots. But again, I'm jumping ahead. I'll talk about the main event here. But I felt like production-wise, like there were some timing issues with this show. Commentary, I felt, was a little bit of a mess. like, I love Jericho, and I think he does a great job with the comedy. Like, he's a throwback to the 80s, doing Bobby Heenan and all that stuff. The only thing is, I'm supposed to also take Jericho seriously as this top guy. Now, of course, he's feuding with Orange Cassidy, but when Jericho's doing all this really over-the-top commentary, I'm like, you know what? If it's Bobby Heenan doing it, imagine Bobby Heenan doing it and then wrestling on a pay-per-view that you're spending $50 for. Like, would you really buy a pay-per-view to see Bobby Heenan wrestling somebody, from 1988 or whatever? Probably not. So, few issues I had with that commentary and just the overall production of this episode of Dynamite. We had Santana and Ortiz do a little promo and basically apologizing. However, they were not apologizing for what they did to Trent Beretta's mom's van. They were apologizing that she was not in the van when they destroyed it. Those bastards. We had the Lucha Brothers teaming up with the Butcher and Blade against Sonny Kiss, Joey Janela, Brian Pillman Jr., and Griff Garrison, who has appeared on Dynamite. He's appeared on AEW Dark. And before the match, Eddie Kingston cut a promo talking about his group. And pretty much a showcase for the heels, but Pillman Jr. got a few moments to shine, and I'm curious to see what he can bring to the table. He looks like he's got a lot of potential. He has decent size and has a good look to him. We had Pillman get some offense on the Butcher, but then he got hit with a clothesline and got double teamed by Butcher and Blade, and then the Lucha Brothers tagged in, double teamed Pillman Jr., and then Pentagon Jr. picked up the pinfall. Earlier, Pentagon took out Joey Janela with a package pile driver on the apron, the hardest part of the ring. After the match, we had Eddie Kingston cut another promo in the ring. The first one was a pre-tape. The crowd was chanting his name, and he said, "I know my name, so shut up." And, oh, by the way, I get what he's doing with the T-shirt, the Black Lives Matter, but if he's a heel, like, people are going to cheer him if he's wearing that T-shirt. Just saying. He said 5 men are going to be in the Casino Battle Royal match. One of them is going to win it from their group. 5 of them, basically 25% of the field of this new faction of Eddie Kingston's. They will be in that Casino Battle Royal. My feeling is none of them are going to win it, but hey, never say never. Maybe it will be Butcher's night. He'll win that Battle Royal and be the guy that shocks everybody. But probably not. We had the Dark Order arrive with a casket. They came out, brought this casket to the stage. Evil Uno said he's never been happier. Of course, he's there looking all creepy, talking about how happy he is. They had a bunch of lawnmowers out there, which I was told was a Being the Elite, their internet show reference. I'm not a fan of this because I think it's just confusing to people that do not watch the show. I'm watching it, and my first thought is, what does this have to do with Matt Hardy? And I could just imagine casual viewers tuning in, seeing a bunch of goofy guys in masks with lawnmowers out there, and like, okay. Anyways, they put Cody's flag on top of the casket, symbolically the end of his career. Brody Lee came out with this really terrible looking suit. I mean, I'm one to talk about fashion, but yeah, that was a weird suit that he was wearing. And he high-fived everybody, and Tony Schiavone interviewed Brody, and Brody said people were laughing at the Dark Order back in December. I think they're still laughing at the Dark Order now, Brody. He said he was at home in prison. Ha ha ha, WWE was burying you. And he said that there are going to be no more indie wrestlers competing for the TNT title. On his watch, Cody will never get it back. And the Dark Order members were chanting, "You deserve it." He introduced the newest member, Anna Jay, who is member 99. And one of the guys said that Brody is the man. He responded by punching that guy. We had Dustin and QT come out for a fight. They got beat up. Scorpio Sky popped in out of nowhere. And then Anna Jay slapped him. Brody Lee took him out. And then Brody took his leave. Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona showed up, hit a Rough Rider to Evil Uno. Ring finally cleared of the bad guys. Brody Lee came back out, held up his title. Too many things happening in this segment. A lot of cringiness, in my opinion, like the BTE references and just all these different things happening. They should have just done the casket segment. They didn't need the promo on top of it, and then all these people running in, and then Zack Ryder coming out. Like, this segment was a mess, in my opinion. I'm still tired of the Dark Order, and Brody looked awesome last week when he beat Cody, but then he comes out and cuts the promo in this goofy-looking suit, and he slaps the guy he's standing around with all these guys. Like, ugh, not working for me. Last week was great, and then they took a step back this week, in my opinion. Kind of a mess of a segment. Like, this came off like a bad Raw segment. Sorry, not sorry. I know some AEW fans might not like to hear that, but this felt like a bad Monday Night Raw segment. TJS with a $2 super chat says, "Off topic, but sirens are going off here and it looks bad." Sorry to hear that, TJS. I heard about the tornadoes, and stay safe, my friend. Hopefully everything will be okay with you guys out there. Mike B with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mike B. He left a good job emoji sticker. Thank you for that, Mike B. And by the way, best wishes to everybody dealing with the hurricane and the tropical storm in the south. Tough stuff to deal with on top of everything with COVID-19. That's for sure. Anyways, back to AEW. We had the Young Bucks backstage confronting Adam Page. They wanted to know why he did what he did. Is he insecure because him and Omega don't want to face the Bucks again? And Nick said one time he called Adam Page a jobber, but now Adam Page has truly decided to be a jobber. Okay? And then Matt was all pissed off. He was saying that now Page is nothing but a drunk. He threw the alcohol in his face, and then they kicked him out of the Elite. I thought Page quit the Elite, or am I missing something? The acting here was really cringy. Like Matt Jackson trying to be angry and serious. Ugh, it did not work, in my opinion. And I still don't understand what's going on with Page. I thought that they were not turning him heel. I thought Omega was the one turning heel, and now Page is the one that's trying to sabotage the Bucks. I don't know what's going on here. I was confused. And if I'm confused, imagine somebody tuning into AEW for the first time. It's a mess. And if they're relying on people to watch Being the Elite, like, you got to make these storylines make more sense to people that are tuning in for the first time. When I'm confused, and granted, I'm not watching BTE, but when I'm tuning into Dynamite every week and I'm confused, imagine somebody tuning in for the first time. So, yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this either. Another miss for Dynamite. Next up, we had Big Swole versus Reba or Rebel. Announcers were not sure which name she's going under, so how the hell am I supposed to know? And Penelope Ford. Britt had her face mask. She's still in the wheelchair. She said if Big Swole wins this handicap match, she can have any match she wants. Sabian got on the apron to interfere, and Penelope Ford hit a big boot to Swole, got her back in the ring. Reba hit a moonsault, which Swole kicked out of. And then they tried to use a crutch when the referee wasn't looking. The referee grabbed one crutch. They grabbed the second crutch. Reba did. She swung at it, missed, hit forward, and then Swole picked up the victory. So Swole managed to overcome the odds despite crutches and Sabian out there. Match was not too good. And now Swole gets to pick whatever kind of match she wants against Britt Baker at All Out, I presume. We had Evil Uno and the Dark Order again show up, offering a contract to Tay Conti. And she's been in that women's tournament. But other than that, I'm not even sure she's been on Dynamite before. Would have been nice if we actually got some footage of her or something. She accepted the offer to join the Dark Order. Don't care. Like I said, I'm so over the Dark Order. And last week I was like, Brody Lee gets a win. That's cool. You know, they're trying to rebuild him. But then this week, it's just a step back. And guess what, Brody? Still laughing at the Dark Order in August 2020. So there you go. And then we had our main event with literally like 7 minutes to go. I mean, this match was hyped up, and this was the main event, and they started the match, and then they quickly cut to a commercial. So they were really running short on time here. Like, I felt like the gauntlet match dragged out a bit, and then those promo segments, like I said, MJF's segment, the Dark Order segment dragged out way too long. And here you had a really short main event, and these guys were just blowing through their spots with not much selling here. Matt tried to throw a chair at Guevara, which was, of course, trying to get payback from what happened a few weeks ago. They did the picture-in-picture literally like a minute into the match. Sammy got busted open. There was a big gash on the side of his head. Matt did this attempted elbow drop off the apron, but he missed, went through the table. Since Guevara did not put him through the table, it was not the end of the match. They quickly got back in the ring. Matt hit a twist of fate on the chair and then went out, grabbed the table that said deleted on it. But he set up the table, and you guys know what happens. When somebody sets up the table, they're usually the one that goes through it. And sure enough, it was Matt. They got suplexed through the table by Sammy. Sammy picked up the win. Mike B with a $5 super chat says, answer this after. Which faction did you like better, or do you like better, Dark Order or Retribution? They're both kind of the same in my opinion. Like, talk about picking between the better of two evils, no pun intended. I can't even pick. I got to see how Retribution plays out before I really choose one over the other, because Retribution is still ongoing. I mean, so far it's been kind of a dud, but once they start unmasking people, it might turn around. Not getting my hopes on it, by the way. So after the match, Orange Cassidy jumped Jericho pretty much right when the match ended. Cassidy jumped Jericho at the desk, hit the Superman punch. Referees came out. Crowd was chanting, let them fight. Jericho started to fight back, and then the pay-per-view, or excuse me, the show went off the air with that last build for the pay-per-view. So, how did the crowd influence this show? I felt like they were noticeably louder because you had 500 people versus 100 people, but I don't think they really added a whole lot. It was a little bit of an improvement, and, you know, some crowd noise is good. It was fine. But overall, I still felt like there were a lot of issues with this Dynamite. Like, last week was really good, and for whatever reason this week, I think they took a step back, in my opinion. I honestly thought this was one of the weaker Dynamites. Like, I really want to be nice, but I'm giving this show a C. Average show, kind of a mess at times. I know some people think AEW is great, they can do no wrong, but yeah, I got Raw vibes from this show. I hate to say it. Like, not a lot of great wrestling, and the talking segments went on way too long. And the main event, which was pretty good for what they did, I mean, it was so short. Like, they had to rush through everything. Like, yeah, I just think the show could have been produced a lot better. So I don't know what happened this week. I don't know why it was a bit of a mess. Commentary was a mixed bag. Jericho's funny at times. I don't know. Kev says a C. NXT was way better. I agree. NXT was way better this week. Michael Wayne with a C. Brent gives it a C. Dr. NXT Scorpio with a C. Israel Diaz with a D. Wow. I'm a little surprised. I thought you guys were going to give it A's and B's. I mean, I'm always concerned whenever I'm like not feeling a Dynamite and I come on here, I'm always afraid people are going to be like, oh, you're just hating on AEW. You don't like good wrestling and all that stuff. Tyson gives it a B. Lewis gives it a C. Victor gives it a D+. And Shady Snake gives it a D-. So there you go. I guess I'm not the only one that wasn't really blown away by this show. Bruce Marvel also gives it a B. Next week, apparently, is also going to be a live show. Oh, by the way, no Excalibur. Jericho was the third commentary man, along with JR and Tony. Apparently, Excalibur did commentary for Dark, so he was brought back in some capacity. I guess we'll see if he's back next week. Maybe they wanted to hold off one more week. We'll see. Or maybe next week Renee Young shows up. Apparently, she has a non-compete, so she's not going to be doing anything with AEW for a while. But we shall see if Excalibur is back. You know, they were hyping up Jericho on commentary. I do miss Excalibur. Like, I think Excalibur gets the current generation of wrestlers. Like, I always feel like JR and even Tony Schiavone, like, they're still used to a different era of wrestling. You know, Excalibur worked for PWG. He's been friends with a lot of these guys in the AEW locker room. Like, he gets what they're made of. And I think that Excalibur does add to the show. So we'll see if they bring him back. I think he should be brought back. I know there was a lot of controversy about his comments, but I think it's time to bring him back, in my opinion. Anyways, that's all I got for tonight as far as AEW goes. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed the recap, subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word. I'll be back next time for Smackdown. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Best wishes to everybody dealing with the natural disasters, the tornadoes and hurricanes, tropical storms. Stay safe, everybody, and I will see you guys next time.